Manx Radio's Update with Dave Moore.
The time is 5 o'clock. You're listening to Manx Radio. I am Dave Moore, and this is Update. Welcome to the programme. Half an hour of the latest news in the Isle of Man, plus sport, business, travel updates, along with the newsmakers in person. Coming up, the Royal College of Nursing's moving a step closer to industrial action over pay, with the majority of members backing a strike. Meanwhile, Manx Care has issued a statement over the Great North Air Ambulance Service. And 3 of the island's cancer charities are due to protest outside next Tuesday's sitting of Tynwald. That's all coming up in the next half hour. First of all, the Update News headlines with Christian Jones. Faster my.
The Royal College of Nursing is considering the next steps for industrial action after a survey revealed that 70% of its members employed by Manx Care on the Isle of Man are willing to strike over pay.
We know that the feeling amongst members is very strong. We were expecting that they would want to take further action and not settle for what's been offered.
Northwest Regional Director Simon Brown's there. The union had been offered a 4% uplift for the last fiscal year, but the union raised concerns that the offer wouldn't be backdated for those who've already left since the start of the financial year. Meanwhile, Manx Care says negotiations are continuing about the future of the Great North Air Ambulance Service and says the current financial model is no longer available and claims GNAS failed to deliver a satisfactory solution. The charity's chief executive, Joe Garcia, says running costs to link the island with Northern England simply can't be absorbed.
This kit needs to be maintained, and as soon as we don't, we lose that ability to fly over water. To reinstate that will no doubt cost even more. And
FC Isle of Man's manager says his team is ready for the gruelling prospect of playing twice in the space of less than 24 hours this weekend.
I would suggest that the league this year is slightly stronger than it was last year.
Ravens boss Paul Jones speaking ahead of his side taking on Pilkington tomorrow evening, then Prestwich Hayes on Sunday morning. In international news, Ukraine's military says it's false to suggest troops are being surrounded by Russian forces in Kursk after Donald Trump asked Vladimir Putin to spare their lives. US Secretary of State Marco Rubio says America's had positive discussions with Mr. Putin over a potential 30-day truce.
But we certainly feel like we're at least some steps closer to ending this war and bringing peace, but it's still a long journey.
G7 leaders have discussed imposing further sanctions on Russia if a ceasefire deal isn't agreed. And the BBC has reached a settlement agreement with 4 female news presenters who accuse the corporation of age and sex discrimination. It means an employment tribunal scheduled for next week won't go ahead. Those are the Update News headlines next at 6.
Thank you, Christian. Looking on to the weather, fine this evening, turning cold overnight with a frost in places, minimum temperature around 0. Then tomorrow, dry again, sunny spells, light winds, a top temperature of 10 Celsius. Cloudy on Sunday, but remaining dry with a few bright or sunny intervals. Highest temperature 11 Celsius.
Manx Glass and Glazing can supply and install single, double and triple glazing. Call 674 573 or visit the showroom on the Snugborough Trading Estate.
If you run a small business or just need more room in the back, Philshore Vehicles has the perfect van or light commercial for all your needs and can sort out any finance. Based in the Tynwald estate, view philshorevehicles.im or call 49 51 49.
A great night's sleep got even better with Zed's Bedding Store. From quality Bell-Dorm bed linen and mattress protectors, fleece and woven throws to luxury duvets from the fine bedding company. Zed's Bedding Ramsey, next to Isle of Man Bank.
SMS Trading. New and second-hand furniture from flat pack to fully built. See our range at 3 St Paul Square, Ramsey. All island delivery and man in a van service available. Call SMS Trading on 315151 or find SMS Trading on Facebook.
The exclusive Karcher store is open with thousands of products, accessories and parts in stock. For Karcher sales and service, Hersham Electrical, Shipyard Industrial Estate, Ramsey.
You're listening to the Isle of Man's quintessential daily news and current affairs roundup. Update on Manx Radio.
The Chief Executive of the Great North Air Ambulance Service says the cost of servicing the Isle of Man cannot be absorbed by the charity. Manx Care's operating plan for 2025-26 reveals that due to the additional costs of insurance and additional safety equipment required for travelling over water, £250,000 per annum is needed to continue its current operations. The health body admits it's unlikely the charity will be able to fundraise to this level each year, casting doubt on the future of the service for Manx residents if Manx Care itself doesn't foot the bill. Siobhan Fletcher caught up with the charity's chief executive, Joe Garcia, to find out more.
It is down to the question of funding. From the outset, Manx Care were paying the Great North Area Ambulance Service a retainer fee. And then we were based on the number of taskings that we would make to the island, we were then receiving a tasking fee as well. Now, that retainer fee was intended to pay the significant upfront costs of preparing the aircraft, both of our aircraft, so that we could ensure that we could always provide a response when we were able to fly. It was to ensure that those aircraft were fitted with equipment to fly over water. So that's flotation devices for the aircraft, life jackets for our crew and a life raft, along with an underwater locating beacon, should, heaven forbid, the aircraft have to ditch in the sea. So that all of that equipment has a significant cost to it. And that's what the retainer fee was intended to cover. And then we had what was in reality a nominal tasking fee, because it didn't actually relate to the true costs of tasking based on an hourly rate, if that makes sense. So that's how our arrangement was structured with the Isle. It's probably worth knowing that, the Great North Area Ambulance Service is entirely charity funded. We receive no direct funding from any government department at all. And it's a miracle sometimes that we are able to maintain the two aircraft that we've got, the critical care skills of the consultant doctors and critical care paramedics that we provide as crew on the aircraft.
Well, Manx Care's just provided further clarification on those ongoing discussions with the Great North Air Ambulance Service. And Siobhan Fletcher joins me in the studio with the latest. What do we know, Siobhan?
Yeah, Dave. So in a statement, Manx Care explained that the use of GNAS as part of the island's emergency medical services began back in 2022. It was initially funded by the Transformation Fund before the cost was later transferred to Manx Care. It says that since December 2023, Manx Care has been in extended discussions with GNAS, exploring the sustainability of the retainer fee that had been previously paid. It says the current arrangement, which includes that retainer, was, quote, no longer financially viable, and discussions have centred around a per-mission costing model instead. GNAS has also been encouraged to explore increasing its charitable contributions in line with its UK funding model to meet the cost of the retainer.
Well, we just heard the old conversation with the charity's chief executive, Joe Garcia, about the way the service to the island is funded and why it costs that extra to provide it, given that they have to fly over the sea. Did Manx Care say anything about how the Great North Air Ambulance Service could find that money?
Yeah, basically Manx Care said that GNAS has been unable to deliver a satisfactory solution, instead offering 3 annual repayment proposals that included the retainer fee. The healthcare body insists that these proposals are not feasible, and as such the continuation of the service, as originally outlined in 2023, may not be sustainable with the current funding. Despite this, Manx Care confirmed the negotiations with GNAS still continue in hopes of finding a workable solution. In the interim, the healthcare body is reassuring the public that services would continue at the same level, provided through a combination of GNAS, the Isle of Man's fixed-winged aircraft, and the HM Coast Guard helicopter. But it is worth noting, Dave, as we know from my conversation with Mr. Garcia, that arrangement has a time limit, and it's seemingly the end of this month.
Thank you, Siobhan Fletcher.
You're listening to the Isle of Man's quintessential daily news and current affairs roundup. Update on Manx Radio.
The Royal College of Nursing's looking into the next steps for industrial action. A survey held by the union shows 70% of balloted members employed by Manx Care on the Isle of Man are prepared to strike over pay. North West Regional Director for the RCN, Simon Browse, has been speaking to Siobhan.
So the outcome of the ballot was that 70% of our members who voted in favour of or willingness to take strike action. Just over half of our members on the island voted in the ballot. We know that the feeling amongst members is very strong regarding the pay offer, particularly in light of the recent improved offer for their medical colleagues on the island. So we were expecting that they would want to take further action and not settle for what's being offered.
Kind of a lot of it hinges then on that back pay pay concern. Can you kind of just explain that to me as well?
Yeah, well, we're still negotiating pay for 24-25, and we should be already agreed on what's coming in the 25 cost of living rise. So we're working, over a year behind really where our members need to be. We've got members who have subsequently left or retired from practice, who haven't received their pay award from last year, and they deserve to receive that and the back pay that they've missed out on. So, it's an unsatisfactory position when nursing, which is such a critical profession and one where we are really working hard to retain people in the profession, that they need an offer that values their contribution and their expertise.
So what's the next step?
What we've done now is we've shared the results with the Isle of Man branch leadership. We'll be arranging a meeting of the Isle of Man branch in the next week where we will discuss the outcomes and gauge their appetite for next steps. We'll be supporting them in terms of preparing for that. That will then go to the regional board, and then the outcome in terms of planned action will go forward. At the same time, we are leaving the door wide open to continue negotiation with Manx Care. We've written to the Chief Executive outlining the ballot outcomes and said that we are available, at the earliest opportunity to re-enter into discussion. This isn't a done deal. We are willing and would rather work with the government to get an improved offer if we can.
You're listening to Manx Radio. This is Update. Glenn Faber and Peel MHK is trying to rally as many residents as possible to submit their feelings about the modified draft area plan for the north and west of the island. It will only come into effect if it's adopted by the Cabinet Office and subsequently approved by Tynwald. It hopes to build better communities, support health and well-being goals, support a vibrant economy, protect the environment, support the delivery of our island plan, and the inspector's report, along with other documents and information from the inquiry. Kate Lord-Brennan, former Cabinet Office Minister, held a meeting last night informing people how they could respond to the consultation, which closes on March 27th.
Don't forget, we're still waiting for proper sewage treatment infrastructure. There's also concern about balance in the town. People talk about new Peel and old Peel, and how the centre of Peel needs to kind of come into life again. So we're not where we should be, and my position is no further development on greenfield sites, and also you really just put the emphasis on what residents need, and just simply to say, enough is enough. We've had our fair share. No to a district link road, and also questioning, of course, some of the submissions that have been put into the rightful process and legitimately, but were they done with reference to the public and the interest of the public? I don't think so.
What would be your message to those people that say, well, you were in this position at that time, what have you done, or what could you have done to change it?
The things that I've done and that I'm doing now are the things that might help get a change. I've been consistent in my response on this. All I did during my time as Minister for the Cabinet Office was simply to oversee the process set out in law. The key thing for people to understand was that I've never taken a political vote on the zoning of land. That wasn't within my gift. It hasn't happened. That sort of decision gets made by Tynwald. It's yet to come. It's really important that people can respond to the consultation. And I'm absolutely confident that where I've had my duties and my constituency responsibilities, I've been able to carry out both. That is possible, and it's been some time now since I've had any involvement with any of this, and actually I stepped down exactly to deal with this issue and to be able to organise things like this.
And I understand you did say that if it does go through to Tynwald, your vote would be no against the plan in its current form.
Yes, I've been on the record for that for some time.
Manx Radio Travel, driven by Quayside Tyres and Service Centre.
Well, everything down at the airport appears to be on time, leaving and coming into the island. Apart from the Dublin flight, the Aer Lingus, which was due to leave at 10 to 5, is now showing as departing at 20 past 6. Otherwise, everything else is to time. The ferries are on time. And on the road, some news that outside the National Sports Centre in Pulrose, the road which has been closed for some time, has reopened this afternoon. So that is now open for traffic just in time for rush hour.
Quayside Tyres and Service Centre with 1 year's free engine warranty from Castrol. Get more with...
3 cancer charities in the island are set to stage a protest outside Tynwald next week over concerns for the future of breast screening services. It follows the publication of the mandate to Manx Care, which showed the health bodies being asked to follow any changes by the UK National Screening Committee. It's led to fears that the frequency of breast screenings could be moved from every 2 to every 3 years, though Public Health says it hasn't recommended such a move yet. Angie Eyre, lead volunteer for Breast Cancer Now, has been speaking to Lewis Foster.
It doesn't seem to be very clear in the mandate as to whether this is going to happen, may happen, or we're going to review it again next year. But we don't want a review. We want that this clause that says it could be changed to 3 years taken out of this mandate. It shouldn't be in there. You know, we've had 2 years very successfully for a long time. Just because the UK do this screening every 3 years doesn't mean to say that we have to follow either. You know, it works very well for us. Throughout Europe, I think there's almost every country in Europe bar 2 smaller ones, and also in the US and Australia, all have 2-year screenings for breast screenings, and we need to keep that because, you know, fewer cancers will be detected early enough for successful treatments if we go to 3 yearly screening. And if it is about a cost saving, you know, we don't know that, but if it is about cost saving, then that's false economy, because people are going to they'll be diagnosed later, so their cancers will be further on. There'll be more complex and lengthy treatments, which isn't going to save, you know, the department any more money. And also, you know, the anguish for the patient itself, you know, themselves. It's a traumatic time anyway, but if it's caught early, it's highly successful treatment. So, we definitely do not want to see this go into 3 yearly screening.
What do you hope to achieve through this protest then outside Tynwald next week?
Well, we hope that lots of people will come out to support us. That's women and men. We know that breast cancer affects most women, but it does affect men too. And we certainly have some men who've had breast cancer here on the Isle of Man and are going through treatments currently. We were going to all wear pinks, and I think we just want them to know to listen to us and hear what the public are saying, and please reconsider, take this clause out of the mandate, and let us continue with our 2-year breast screening.
You're listening to Update on Manx Radio. Plans are underway to install an electric aircraft charging point at the Isle of Man airport in the next 2 years. Light aircraft handling provider 3 Legs Aviation Services Limited partnered with Aerovolt UK on the private scheme. The company say it will support the aviation industry here and attract new business opportunities, including flight training providers and sustainable tourism initiatives. Mark Langley, founder of 3 Legs Aviation, says demand will increase as the infrastructure increases.
As is well publicised, the aviation industry is investing millions, if not billions of pounds into sustainable and electric aircraft. There's already fully electric aircraft operating in the United Kingdom, only very small aircraft, which is the market we look after. Aerovolt currently have 8 charging stations across England and Wales. And as with the electric cars, as you mentioned, demand increases as the infrastructure increases. In the Isle of Man, we want to be a place where people can come and have their electric aircraft charged.
So I guess then, sort of talking then, like you say there, about light aircraft, so these sort of smaller planes, like we're not expecting to see a big passenger jet being plugged into a charger just yet.
No, I think we're still a good few years from that happening. These are mostly just small single engine or twin engine propeller aircraft operating private use. There is 1 or 2 flying schools starting to introduce them. That is something else over the next 2 years we'll look at the feasibility of.
Perfect. So like you say, that if they build it, they'll come type of thing. You can kind of get that infrastructure in place and then encourage more and more planes to come over here or be using the airport as that base.
Yeah, that's exactly it. If, as expected, the uptake in electric aircraft, and obviously as the technology advances, the Isle of Man is going to be within range for these types of aircraft. And at some point, we're not going to change the world overnight, but at some point the balance is going to tip more towards the electric side. And, you know, we want to be ready for when that happens.
You're listening to the Isle of Man's quintessential daily news and current affairs roundup. Update on Manx Radio.
The MSPCA is hoping its latest campaign will encourage pet owners to reinforce positive behaviour in their animals rather than punish negative ones. They're asking for shock collars to be donated to them for educational reasons. The charity says it won't judge any donations but wants to raise awareness of alternative training methods. Krish Burrock is from the MSPCA.
You can get 3 different types. One that literally gives a dog an electric shock. You can also get the citronella collars that spray a certain smell at the dog if they were doing something wrong. And you can also get ones that are quite noisy, so it can make a beep noise or just a loud high-pitched noise that redirects the dog to do something. And they're a way of training a dog or a cat, because you can get the same for cat collars as well. And it's to try improve a dog's training or correct them by using that collar. And it's those kind of electric shock collars that we do not recommend using. However, they are legal on the Isle of Man.
Manx SPCA is now asking people to donate their shock collars. So what's that scheme about?
This year we're running a few programmes and we'd love to be able to educate the public on different things that are legal on the island that might be worth the members of the public knowing about, to see if we could change that slightly in the Animal Welfare Act of 2024. So one of those items was the electric shock collars, and we'd like people that may have purchased one or may have one at home, no longer using it, or they'd like to not use it anymore and look for a different, more positive method, donate it into Manx SPCA. You won't be judged. You will be thanked really for donating the electric shock collar in. And what we'll be doing is, with those, whilst we're attending shows and schools, etc., and we'll be running the education programme of having these different tools available for people to see.
And you mentioned better methods. I know you talked a little bit about methods that enforce positive behaviours rather than punishing negative ones. So what kind of tips would you give to anybody who's wanting to train their dog?
Go to different dog trainers. There's so many on the island, and it's always worth looking at what their credentials are and what they've trained in, what dogs they've already been training previously. It gives you an idea of what dog trainer you would like to try with your dog, and before you even get a dog, do some research on training, what that dog's going to be like, their normal mannerisms as that breed, and what you will be needing to do.
Let's move on to sport. And this weekend, FC Isle of Man are in a rare situation. They play twice in the space of less than 24 hours at the Bowl. They face Pilkington tomorrow at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, and then Prestwich Hayes at 11 on Sunday morning. Ravens manager Paul Jones explains the challenges of a doubleheader and their current objectives in what has been an up and down season.
It's mainly the recovery between games. We've not had to do one at home since the first season, but we've done each season so far. There's been a doubleheader weekend, and it's probably easier to manage when we're on the Isle of Man in terms of players resting and recovering between the games, and availability as well. The away games last year in particular was hard to cover, with people needing to get back to the island between the fixtures and other players available for one game and not the other. So yeah, it's mainly around recovery, but many of the players, and certainly myself as manager, have had experience of island games where you play back to back with quite short turnarounds day to day. So it's not something a lot of the players are unused to.
It's been an up and down season for FC Isle of Man. In mid-table at the moment, what do you think is the best possible outcome for the team in these final few games?
Best possible outcome is to win every game, isn't it? But most importantly of all is to keep building on how we're trying to play and get more consistency. You're right, it has been a little bit up and down. We've been bottom of the form table at one point and maybe are at the moment, and we've been top of the form table at another point. We're not quite where we wanted to be with 7 games left, but it is where we are at the moment, and we've spoken about where we need to improve if we really want to be challenging at the top end of the table, and also where we want to get to over the next kind of 3 or 4 years.
Are you still confident that the skills that these players from the island are showing are good enough to play at this level and higher?
Yes, I've no doubt whatsoever. I think the bit that's kind of holding us back at the moment is just being able to consistently demonstrate that week to week and not allowing individual or collective levels to slip. And that's easier to say than actually do. I would suggest that the league this year is slightly stronger than it was last year.
FC Isle of Man manager Paul Jones. And Manx Radio will be bringing you full live match coverage of both games on our DAB and AM 1368 channels with commentator Rob Pritchard, who joins me now for the latest sport. Good evening, Rob.
Faster my Dave. First this evening, 2 more medals have been secured by Special Olympics Isle of Man in the snowshoeing competitions at the 2025 World Winter Games in Italy. Dylan Butler claimed his 2nd gold medal in as many days, winning one of the men's 200-metre finals, whilst teammate Robert Molesworth finished 7th, having overcome an injury on Thursday. Elsewhere, Rebecca Mailer, having just missed out on medal positions yesterday, took bronze and 3rd position in one of the women's 200-metre showdowns. In another of the ladies' finals, Kanyeba Lubulyani, who won bronze in the 100 metres the day before, finished 4th earlier today. Looking ahead to this weekend, and in football, the two nearest challengers to Canada Life men's Premier League leaders Peel meet this weekend on what could be an important weekend in the top flight title race. Well, with the Westerners currently 4 points clear with the game in hand, Corinthians in second host third place St Mary's, who are just a point behind their hosts going into Saturday's ties. Elsewhere, at the bottom of the standings, just 1 point separates St George's in the final relegation spot currently, and Onken just above them in 11th. They have to navigate home times against St John's United and Laxey, respectively. On Sunday, the spotlight turns to this year's Women's FA Cup final as Malou and Corinthians meet at the Bowl at 2:45pm. For the southern side, it's a first major cup final since the 2005-2006 season, up against the 7-time winners of the competition. Well, you can see a full schedule of this weekend's fixtures at manxradio.com. In rugby, the focus is on both Vagabonds teams, with Vagabonds ladies facing their final game of the season in women's NC2 North-South. They travel to face Littleborough tomorrow, a team the Islanders resoundingly beat 56 points to 5 at Ballafletcher last Saturday. Elsewhere, Vagabonds men's punishing Counties 3 ADM Lancashire-Cheshire schedule continues with a trip to Ashton-under-Lyne. And in hockey, Valkyries A will be hoping to be the ones to rein in runaway ladies Premier League leaders Castletown A when the two meet as part of this weekend's league matches. Elsewhere, just 2 points separate the top two in the men's top flight, Backers A and Vikings A. You can see a full list of fixtures on our website.
Thank you, Rob. And don't forget, Rob will be here straight away with Friday Sport Preview. Plenty of guests in the programme tonight. But that is it for Update, compiled from the resources of Manx Radio's news department. Thank you, newsreader Christian Jones. And the stories you've heard on this programme. And much more Manx news, plus interviews, podcasts, and the web's biggest source of Manx videos are all at manxradio.com and via the free Manx Radio app. Just like Manx Radio on Facebook, follow us on X and subscribe to the Manx Radio YouTube channel. If you have a comment on the news agenda, a story you think we should be covering, maybe you just want to say hi, then get in touch via email, update@manxradio.com. That's it from myself, Dave Moore. All being well, be back on Monday. But for now, have a great weekend.
When couples decide to part, there's a lot to deal with. There's the matter of the children, the matter of your property, the matter of pensions. You need to consider the matter of existing wills, and perhaps the matter of a business. And because you matter, Man Benham Advocates are here for you when it comes to divorce and family matters. For help and advice and a free initial consultation, call Man Benham on 639 350.
Man Benham, here for you.